Number 5.
Narrowing it down to only 5 crappy games in the Sonic series was tough, and it came down to 3D Blast and Sonic the Hedgehog for the 360.
While both are infamous for their controls, we have to give the nod to 3D Blast. Why? Because at the time it was released, Sonic was so hot.
Sonic 3D Blast has hit the mainland. The Blue Storm is moving unpredictably, spinning, smashing, gaining power as he tears along.
Here we are, the supposed first bad game in the Sonic series, Sonic 3D Blast. Though, that's always confused me. As a kid, I played this on the GameCube as a part of the Sonic Mega Collection, and I enjoyed it there. Maybe there's something wrong with me, I don't know. I know a lot of people don't like this game. Now, the history of Sonic 3D Blast is an odd one, to say the least. Mainly involving the cancellation of Sonic X-treme on the Sega Saturn. That was intended to be the Saturn's killer app to rival Mario 64, but had a production so troubled that it would end up being cancelled. There's a long history to this cancelled game, but to keep me from rambling for hours, basically, Sonic Team canceled this 3D Sonic game and needed a new one to push out for the 1996 holiday. Sonic 3D Blast was one of 2 games Traveler's Tales was contracted by Sega to develop. This is the company who would later go on to create Crash Twinsanity, the underrated gem of Toy Story 2 on Nintendo 64, and many, 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 many amazing LEGO video games, including the incredible LEGO Star Wars. Traveler's Tales founder and lead director John Burton worked on Sonic 3D Blast and many other games, and even has a YouTube channel, Game Hut. I would really suggest checking it out if you have any interest in video games, especially any of the ones I mentioned. This man is a smart programmer, I'll tell you that. Back to 3D Blast. This was originally planned as the swan song for the Genesis, being released in 1996 after the release of the Saturn. However, with Extreme cancelled, Sega looked at 3D Blast and requested a Saturn port. The port was developed in less than 2 months. Honestly, this was the best call Sega could make at the time. They needed a game quickly for the Saturn, and releasing a game on multiple systems is a great way to increase sales. It's why you see so many games releasing on both the PlayStation 4 and 5, nearly 2 years after the PlayStation 5 came out. And considering new Genesis consoles and games were being released until 1997 and 1998 depending on the region, it's not too crazy to see why the game was released for both. It's crazy to think, the same year they were making Dreamcasts, Sega Genesises were coming out. Is that a word? Genesises? I don't know. For this review, I will be taking a look at the Sega Genesis version of this game, mainly because I have little experience with the Sega Saturn, and because it's the version I grew up with. However, I will be playing it through the Steam re-release. I also won't be touching the Tiger Electronics versions with a 10-foot pole. Jesus Christ. Sonic 3D Blast is actually the only Sonic Genesis game I don't have for the actual Genesis. There's no real reason for this, I just never encountered it in the wild. Plus, playing it on PC will give me HD visuals to show. Wait, what happened to the footage? I 100%ed this game and the footage is all messed up? Well, isn't that just great? I have no idea what happened, but I recorded over 4 hours of gameplay footage, I 100%ed the game, and all the footage is just unusable. I have no idea how this happened. So I quickly had to re-record everything. Luckily, however, the game does have a cheat code system, so I used that to get around. However, this review was written after I 100%ed the game, so I didn't cheat when I originally wrote the review. Well, let's turn the game on. Huh, a full FMV scene on the Genesis. Not something you see, well, ever. That alone is an impressive feat by the programmers. As said before, John Burton on his YouTube channel Game Hut has a video describing this. I would really suggest checking it out. Starting up, we have a short introduction. Robotnik has captured these birds known as Flickies. They're species of bird that are able to travel dimensions. The blue form Flickies have appeared all the way back to the first Sonic game, and even then are based off the main character from the game, Flicky. So these birds are a tribute to Sega's past. Starting off, we see the game's main gimmick, the isometric perspective. Isometric perspectives are a common way to pull off 3D perspectives on 2D games. Really quick, let's address the elephant in the room. Is Sonic 3D Blast 3D? Well, only the Saturn version uses 3D graphics, but all versions are 3D. Let me explain. 2D refers to the existence of only 2 dimensions, X and Y. 3D refers to the existence of another dimension past that, Z. A 3D game allows for players to travel in a space in either the X, Y, or Z axis, or a combination of all 3. Here, Sonic is able to do that. He can go straight, up or down, he can go left or right, and he can jump up. That's X, Y, and Z, so this is a 3D game. Now, this game is touted as Sonic's first 3D game, but that actually isn't true. Sonic the Fighters was a 3D fighting game that came out months earlier in May 1996. Yeah, Sonic 3D Blast always being called the first 3D Sonic game is incorrect, because that came out in November 1996. This fighting game that people don't really like barely beat it. Alright, now to actually play the game. We have a standard moveset of running around at the speed of sound with a basic jump and a spin dash. This is a 2D Sonic engine updated to 3D, which makes sense. However, the game takes a more explorative approach to level design. Instead of having players rush to the end of the act, levels are split into multiple sections. Every section has a certain amount of flickies that have to be brought to the end, usually found inside a badnik. Taking them to the end will allow you to move to the next section. Getting hit will cause the birds to fly away, but they can be re-gotten pretty easily. They can also be deposited early, if that's more convenient. The isometric view makes killing enemies with a jump a bit odd, but most being killed by simply rolling into them. I actually found myself using the roll a lot in this game, more than most other Sonic games. It helps you slow down, and the manual even suggests doing that. Speaking of Sonic's moveset, this game was actually the first to have the homing attack, called the blast attack here. With how odd platforming can be, it's a lifesaver. Shame it's exclusive to one of the shield power-ups, really big shame. So if you get hit, you can't use it anymore. Having it available all the time would have made this game so much more pleasant. Despite that though, platforming works well since the challenges aren't too hard, for the most part. Outside of the things I just mentioned, the controls are pretty smooth in this game. Sonic's speed is thankfully not too fast so you can navigate around easily. Really, the only issue I have is using the D-pad on the Genesis. It wasn't made to work 3D games, so moving is odd. Wait a minute, I'm playing this on Steam! I can use whatever controller I want! Speaking of challenges, what would a Genesis Sonic game be without special stages? Accessing them is like a middle ground between Sonic 1 and 3. Get 50 rings and find a pal to take you to the special stage. Yup, Knuckles and Tails are here, and instead of helping Sonic, they hide and only take him to the special stage. Odd, but I guess it's cool they're here. I'll assume they were a late addition. Fun fact, this was the first game where Knuckles fully helped Sonic and Tails. Neat. So the manual explains that the two joined Sonic on vacation to Flickies Island, which is why they're here, but the opening cutscene doesn't show them. I'm probably looking too far into this. Special stages are simple pathways with occasional obstacles that you have to dodge. Get enough rings in every section, and you'll get the emerald. These stages are easy, but I'm perfectly fine with that. The game has other frustrating parts that make me fine with the easy ones. By the way, there's no Super Sonic in this game. Getting all the Chaos Emeralds will only unlock a special final battle. Shame. Stages go through the usual romp that the series is known for. At this point, it's kinda cliche. Green Hill Place, Pinball Place, Fire Place, Ice Place, Factory Place again, Space. Not that using these locations is anything bad, but like, could we get a little more creative? Anyways, the zones are designed pretty well for the most part. Green Grove is simple, starting with many hidden areas to find. Its waterfalls show just how advanced of a Genesis game it is. Rusty Ruin Zone is a lot like Marble Hill Zone from Sonic 1. Both in design and how hard it is for a second zone. It is way too hard for this early in the game, and I keep finding myself getting lost. A mini-map would have been nice, but I find it fun for its challenging parts and the spin move introduced. Standing on these spinning tiles will cause Sonic to spin. You can still move, but can now damage enemies and certain pillars with it. Trying to break certain ones to reach hidden objects is a nice touch. But if you get hit by an obstacle, you'll obviously take damage, and you won't be spinning anymore. Also, the Genesis manual says this zone takes place in Atlantis. Spring Stadium is the worst this game has to offer. First off, look at this! Yellow and red, an amazing color combination. I was wondering when I'd enter the McDonald's zone. Even ignoring the poor color palette, this place uses trampolines as its main gimmick. While that can work in the 2D games very well, here it fails. The controls aren't as smooth as the 2D games, and the less challenging platforming accommodates for this. But Spring Stadium does away with this sense of simple. And there are trampolines everywhere. Luckily, it's all uphill from here. Diamond Dust is a rather straightforward snow level, but well designed. The slippery controls here actually aren't too bad, and jumping makes it easy to deal with. Volcano Valley Zone has the right mix of difficulty for me. While the fire traps all through the level can be annoying, picking up a flame shield will make them less of an issue. But even without it, it's not too hard, and they're put in a position where the Flickies can't run too far if they get free. After that is Gene Gadget Zone, a place that is a bit of a mess. It's built with a maze-like structure based around different floors. You start from the top and can't go back down after you pass a floor. You can only go all the way down and take an elevator back up. This is kind of annoying, but it's easy enough to get through after doing it once or twice. I'll cut the game some slack here since we are in the final part of it. It should get difficult. After Gene Gadget, we enter Panic Pump It Zone, which has no puppets in the slightest. Odd name. This place takes a gimmick the whole game has been using and flips it around. The first act has you just finding the birds and capsules instead of enemies, and the second act doesn't even have them. Instead, you just race to the goal. This level is pretty intense because of it, being more linear and having you race towards the end. With this, there are much more enemies and obstacles. I honestly wish more levels played with other gimmicks, and maybe that this level had a time limit to make it feel more intense. But these are minor nitpicks and observations. This level is a great final normal level, which ends with Sonic being sorted by a huge statue of Robotnik? I couldn't make this shit up if I wanted. After that, we have two final bosses and... oh, wait, I didn't talk about any of the bosses yet. So Sonic 3D Blast zones are more in line with Sonic 1 than Sonic 2 or 3. They're split into 3 acts instead of 2. Although, here the third act is simply a boss fight against Eggman. They're mostly nothing too notable, but there are a few diamonds. The Rusty Ruins boss is Eggman using a priceless Atlantis artifact to attack Sonic. Spring Stadium uses a small mobile version of the previous boss, which is kinda disappointing. Kind of a cop-out. Gene Gadget Zone's boss I like a lot. It has the player running on a conveyor belt after Dr. Robotnik as he flies up and down laying traps. It's a simple but fun boss fight. Finally, there's the last boss, dubbed the Final Weapon. Creative name. You only get here if you find all the Chaos Emeralds. It's a multi-stage fight in a dark void. I honestly really like the minimal design of this final area. It, alongside the music, gives a foreboding yet hopeful feel. The Saturn version has a background, but honestly it kinda kills the vibe for me. Take down the final phase and watch as Sonic frees the Flickies. Knuckles and Tails aren't here, so I can only assume they're dead. And that's Sonic 3D Blast, a graphically spectacular game, but only okay when it comes to actual gameplay. In my opinion, this is by no means a bad game, just one with many flaws. And that's not too surprising. The game was rushed by Sega, especially after they commissioned further ports to the PC and Saturn. Levels are large and platforming can be too precise. It's very easy to get hit by enemies because of the hot perspective, and there really isn't much of a reason to go after the Chaos Emeralds. Past games gave you Super Sonic and a final level, but here you only get the final level. Kind of a letdown. And that's really how reviewers of the time felt about Sonic 3D Blast on Genesis. Looking at reviews, it's really the same thing. Here are a few quotes from Electronic Gaming Monthly's November 1996 issue. I feel that Sonic 3D Blast can be to the Genesis almost what Donkey Kong Country was to the Super NES. Blast had some of the best, most colorful graphics this old machine has seen. The levels are a bit too similar in design for my taste. Sonic 3D is a fun enough game, with lots of cool levels and decent rendered graphics. It's just not as fun as the Hedgehog's previous. The reviewers gave the game an average of 7.25 out of 10, with the 7.5 being the highest rating and 7.0 being the lowest. As I said, it's a fine enough game, the feedback loop is nice, the isometric perspective is done better than most games, the graphics look amazing, and it doesn't get boring. And the music is incredible. The Genesis tunes were done by a few people, including Jun Seno. Seno would compose later games such as Sonic Adventure, and became the guitarist of Crush 40, the band known for making the themes of Sonic games. He even used some tracks for later games. This is a very graphically impressive Genesis experience. But the next console was already out, and the Saturn version only looked a little better. Not only that, but the game had stiff competition that year. 1996 alone saw the release of Super Mario RPG, Donkey Kong Country 3, the original Pokemon games, the first Resident Evil, Tomb Raider, Twisted Metal 2, Parappa the Rapper, Duke Nukem 3D, Crash Bandicoot, the first Diablo, Nights into Dreams, and about 2 months earlier in America, Super Mario 64. Sonic 3D Blast was a big fish in a sea of whales. Plus, people still thought that Sonic Extreme, the next 3D Sonic game that was hyped up to hell and back, was still coming out. it wasn't announced as being cancelled until 1997. So people saw 3D Blast as a simple holdover. Many didn't see it as worth it. Though not to say this game wasn't successful, the Saturn version is one of the best-selling Sega Saturn games, and the Genesis version sold over 700,000 copies. Sure, that's less than the other Sonic games, but for a dying console, that's very good sales. Now, I stated the game's flaws: lack of direction, a punishing perspective, a controller not made for 3D games, and gameplay can get a little bland. Well, that was an issue in 1996. It's 2022, and these issues can be solved easily. Don't like the Genesis controller? Just play it on a GameCube, PS2, Xbox, or even on Steam. The PC version, like I said, it lets you use any controller. I used to switch in a PS5 one and they both felt great. And the Steam version has so many helpful features. Save state so you can come back later, a rewind feature if you die in some BS way, and support for mods. There are a bunch of mods for this game, even an amazing one from the original director, John Burton. It fixes many of the game's issues. So do check out Sonic 3D Blast, but pick it up on Steam for a low price of $4.99 when it's not on sale, and just go crazy with mods, or play vanilla. No matter what, it'll be a fun time. In fact, you could say it's a blast.